Today I want to share with you an overview of my final project, the Phygital Fashion Emporium. So let's begin by jumping right into the significance of my topic. The consumer today is immersed in an experiential-driven economy. And as published in the Harvard Business Review, experiences have emerged as the next step in which we call the progression of economical value. To put this in perspective, we can use the analogy of pizza to understand why this is the case. The raw ingredients, tomato and flour. In their purest form, these are considered commodities. And this category of product once drove the economy. But then we could buy canned tomato sauce and take and bake pizza dough. Through the development of manufacturing and packaging, these commodities became unique products. Shortly after, pizza delivery became popular. The rise of the service economy flourished because it provided a new competitive advantage for the brands selling these products. Now think about the number of restaurants that feature this cuisine with iconic atmospheres and unique product combos. Each one of these examples highlights an economical shift in the products we choose to purchase. In addition, over time, we willingly have been paying more for these products because they offer us additional value. Internet usage has skyrocketed this past year as our work, entertainment, and social interactions have moved online. The changes to our daily routines and schedules have made us much more reliant on our devices. The population has dramatically shifted toward utilizing online channels to engage with companies and industries. The result of this is a sped-up timeline towards the race for global digital transformation. Digital transformation is the integration of technology in business. It's about changing the way a business interacts with its customers. To meet the changes in consumer trends, it's about creating new or modifying existing business processes and customer experiences. With digital transformation, the customer expects a consistent experience, whenever and wherever they need it. Purchasing online removes the human interaction involved in shopping. This was the quality which defined the service economy. E-commerce affords every customer the ability to compare prices with ease. While this option is sometimes convenient, many businesses haven't exactly figured out a way to transfer their in-store experience digitally. And as a result, the internet has become the greatest known force of commoditization for goods and services. My point is, experience is equally, if not more important to any product, service, or commodity that enters the e-commerce market today. Not to jump too far ahead, let's review my initial project statement. To paraphrase, I noticed a difference between the presentation of fashion luxury products and those designed for the everyday consumer. From this observation, my research question was born. Can a three-dimensional e-commerce interface democratize the experience of fashion storytelling through an interactive, downloadable application? I'm sure many of you are asking, what does she mean by democratizing fashion storytelling and luxury products? I'm fully aware that some of these terms could be thought of as subjective. But to understand entirely requires a brief explanation of the history of fashion goods. Dress originated as a tool that protected us against our environment. Since its development, it has also become a vehicle used for the communication of power, identity, and values. In the 1600s, textiles represented global leadership and authority. France, the country of origin for haute couture, didn't become the fashion capital of the world until King Louis XIV came into power. Under his rule, the reputation and survival of the monarchy depended upon a highly crafted fashion and textile trade. This became inseparable from French culture. Haute couture was established under the house of Charles Frederick Worth. His designs were exclusive, made to order, and protected under the French law chamber. Even today, to be considered true couture, houses require oppressively strict credentials. Allworth produced one-of-a-kind garments for aristocratic descent. He also recognized the financial opportunity, particularly in the American market. He was the first designer to make use of the connection between celebrity, fashion, and the press in the distribution of products. As contradicting as it seems, he was establishing precursor methods for mass manufacturing. At the same time, his peers continued to evolve the state of fashion by orchestrating theatrical performances and events. The American garment industry relied on adopted French patterns until the Wall Street market crashed in 1922. American fashion evolved the ready-to-wear market as communication with France ceased. Popular culture, cinema, and art simultaneously became commercial vehicles for trends, ultimately diversifying the field of fashion globally. The emergence of the graphic design poster made the public the new patrons of the arts, while the rise of the middle-class American sparked a new interest in goods and services. The appearance of the autonomous consumer object emerged when museum methods of curation trickled down to department stores. This materialized a mediation between product and consumer through a new form of advertising. The Bon Marché, the first department store to open in Paris, set the standards for what luxury retail could be. The department store featured art galleries alongside markets, further entangling the relationship art played within commerce. Department stores evolved into entertainment centers by offering customers a place to shop, dine, experience art, and catch a fashion show. This became the American middle-class leisure destination of choice. The rise of the window display as a cultural phenomenon was a site for the consumer spectacle. Department stores encouraged customers to consume through the exploitation of visual pleasures. With advanced manufacturing, globalization, and the rise of fast fashion, this industry has reached its breaking point. We have more disposable income today, and trends in consumer culture have conditioned its population to adopt a disposable mentality. There are so many facts about the environmental and ethical costs of fashion today. But if I can summarize with one statement alone, it's the fact that we just have too many clothing items in the first place. Contributing to this, customers of the West lack a tangible understanding of the complex systems involved in the production of fashion products. The principles that comprise my theoretical framework are the following. David Bolter and Richard Grinson established a new framework for the particular ways in which all media borrows from and refashions other media. It was originally assumed that digital technologies such as the internet or computer graphics were divorced from previous media types, but through their theory of mediation, this assumption has been debunked. New media achieves cultural significance by paying homage to or refashioning earlier forms of media. For example, perspective painting remediates photography. Film remediates stage production and photography. The representation and translation of one medium into another is remediation, a foundational theory informing my project's concept. Maslow's hierarchy of needs seeks to classify the needs of individuals from a primitive foundation that builds upwards towards the achievement of self-actualization. Once our basic needs are fulfilled, our quest is fueled by what Maslow describes as a new discontent. To be specific, a new quality of needs are required because we have fulfilled our basic needs. These higher level of needs are based on value, acceptance, authenticity, and meaning. Artistic processes and self-actualization are linked. They are the distinguishing markers of a self-actualized being. They have been described as individuals who experience more frequent momentary peaks. Peak experiences are the moment in which an individual feels as if they have been hit by a bolt of lightning or feel ecstatically immersed. Maslow believes creativity and all appreciation of creative endeavors are fundamental moments in time where we can achieve self-actualization. In the model of consumer sensibility, the levels of authenticity and meaning are important because they are more personal, another defining characteristic of a higher need. The modern consumer today is immersed in an experiential driven economy because we seek to define our sense of being. Diffusion theories seek to explain how fashion is spread and adopted by the population. The trickle-down theory was the first fully articulated sociological theory of fashion, with trickle up and across emerging later in an attempt to reposition and challenge social class hierarchies. Strong arguments against the latter point out that even if trends do emerge in another tier class, it still requires an individual from the above social position to popularize the trend. Trickle-down theory explains new trends as emerging from the transfer between the upper or leisure class to the lower one. The theory highlights class distinctions, more specifically, how individuals use fashion as a tool to differentiate themselves. My project seeks to challenge these hierarchical differences. Instead, I am suggesting that digital tools will shape fashion and follow adoption patterns similar to the rhizome. The rhizome is a philosophical concept suggesting a way to perceive unpredictable changes. It is an open framework, or rather an anti-structuring. The model embraces multiplicities and rejects the notion of a clear middle, beginning, and end. The rhythmic nature of cyberspace decentralizes structures, what I am suggesting the future of fashion will do. Let's review what is the Phygital Fashion Emporium and how is it developed. For this project, I designed a digital fashion collection titled Looped. The Looped collection features mix and match print designs intended to promote fashion system education. Each print was designed with a quirky, eco-centric backstory. The goal for this print collection was to express fashion transparency to the consumer through a visual medium. Hopefully, by incorporating transparency into our clothing pieces in such an obvious way, the hypothetical customer would be reminded long after the tags were removed what philosophy they bought into. With this collection, I explored the ways in which the design of an augmented reality interface can empower the consumer to virtually try on, interact, and shop through a 3D interface. By digitizing runway presentation and the in-store experience, my project proposes that we can democratize the industry of fashion because this space allows for smaller or local designers to compete on the same level as high-end and corporate fashion brands. By remediating runway storytelling through the use of augmented reality and 3D graphics, each customer can become an active participant in their e-commerce experience. Augmented reality superimposes a computer-generated image onto a user's view of the real world. The core mechanics behind how you would navigate my interface design are directly influenced by my early experiments in virtual reality. This informed my decision to conceptualize my interface design as an experience which oscillates between the virtual and the real. The core of this project is about crafting a new e-commerce experience. If you compare visiting a brick-and-mortar J.Crew next to visiting a place like the Gucci Garden, they look quite different. But notice how similar they look online. These high-end brands like McQueen and Dior blend right in with Patagonia and H&M. In the spring, I participated in the Sweat Equity Challenge hosted by the Office of Research Commercialization at NC State. Through this program, I interviewed 20 potential customers, ranging from brand owners, e-commerce representatives, and everyday consumers. While I was studying value proposition and customer segments, I was able to gather enough information from these interviews that really validated my original research question. Here are the quick highlights. Participating in New York Fashion Week is expensive, yet fashion brands see value in the marketing opportunities that it offers. The most frustrating part of participating in a virtual runway event for Andrea was the lack of control over final presentation. Sale transactions made on a website primarily occur on a cell phone as opposed to a laptop or desktop computer. Brands are already using social media to connect with customers, but they're leery of Instagram Shop. One of the reasons being that the The current format of Instagram encourages endless scrolling. For brands like Doan, they want their customers to spend more time with the brand's content. All of the brands I interviewed stated that they would continue to place more emphasis on their digital shopping experience. Laura, the owner of Lilanlu, on her own accord, said that she wished she could give her customers a place to explore and discover, similar to how they would in store. Her current solution is capturing video content for Instagram stories. At the end of all these interviews, I asked if they would consider hiring a third-party solution to build a more interactive, media-based experience for their online audience. They all said yes. There was even discussion about replacing brick and mortar altogether, since the overhead is quite high with hard-to-measure return value. Here is a snapshot of the software I am using. I won't go into depth about them individually, but I will share a more general overview as I break down my workflow. Unreal is a 3D creation platform used for game development, VFX, and any other real-time application. After modeling in Maya, I started building a working elevator within the engine. Previously, in my virtual reality explorations, I observed how easily you could manipulate the environment. If I wanted the user to feel as if they were shopping, I needed a real-world reference that could set this tone, especially since my concept is already a little unconventional. I flirted with the idea of actually building this thing, but I discovered that the AR Core SDK with Unreal just hasn't been supported like many of the other packages within the engine. Instead, I decided to focus on a virtual production workflow where I refined my project's end deliverable. I will create a video walkthrough of the Phygital Fashion Emporium application featuring the collection Looped. It will showcase the app's interface design, feature 3D spaces, dancing models, and interactive AR content. More specifically, the AR component includes virtual try-on sessions, the option to bring the dancing models into your personal space, and the opportunity to bring any asset within the 3D world into your own for a more personal, Instagrammable moment. If you're unfamiliar with any type of 3D workflow, the challenging part of working across a number of different software, like I am doing, is the fact that all of these programs have specific and unique ways of interpreting data and information. It could be shaders, time interpolation, simulation steps. This drove my decision to first attempt a simpler workflow, which then I expanded to a slightly more ideal and robust workflow. In scenario 1, the goal was to get the garment textured and animated with the model in iClone, because I knew that I could export out a PNG sequence of the animation with transparency. This means I could composite this content on top of any other pre-recorded content within After Effects. In scenario 2, the goal was to get the models textured and animated with the garments into Unreal so that I could record the 3D scenes under the same lighting conditions. Clo Virtual Fashion specializes in the development of 3D garment simulation. This is the foundational technology found within their two software products, Clo 3D and Marvelous Designer. To pattern this collection, I use Clo 3D. To animate, I use Marvelous Designer. These two products can be confusing since they share a common interface, but they have their differences. Marvelous Designer, the first software release, is used for the creation of cloth-based assets in CG animation in the gaming industry. Clo 3D is a more robust solution for the fashion industry because it offers distinct features which extend the software's capabilities into the design, development, and manufacturing process of real-world garment creation. Interestingly, despite some of the differences in software capabilities, the files between the two are interchangeable. What's so special about this is that it's entirely realistic to expect virtual production in the real world of fashion to come. If you're already building these patterns digitally for a manufacturer, then you already have the base for virtual production assets. Although, from my experience, it's not a common pipeline documented anywhere and took quite a bit of experimentation, along with an active Reillusion form page presence. Next, I want to share with you what I have assembled towards the final deliverable, which right now features the interface and navigation design for the application. Where am I now? I'm sure you could guess there's so much more I could talk about with this workflow. Here's a current shot of the models and the garments textured, animated, and playing in sync within the engine. My next steps are to assemble the scenes and composite the footage. Here are the sources I used for this presentation, and thank you again for taking the time to watch this.